Do you watch other artists on YouTube or Instagram draw amazing faces, but you can't figure out why yours always looks like this? It's so frustrating. I had my fair share of frustrations as a student, and now as an instructor, I can see that there are things that are left out of YouTube videos or other online content that can only result in self-doubt and disappointment. And that's why I decided to make this video, to get people back on track and show them they can do this, if they learn things in the right order. Let's take a look at this face. This was a quick sketch done with only a few lines. But for me to get here, where it only took a few simple lines, it took me learning force, form, shape, and anatomy. What you're not seeing is the hundreds of lines that I'm not drawing underneath the simple sketch. All the things that I studied, which allow me to know where the lines need to be placed. And I'd love to show you how they're relying me to draw this way. Our founder teaches force, form, shape, and anatomy at Disney, Pixar, Riot Games, and others, and they make a huge impact when filling the gaps often missed in people's education. It's essential training for the entertainment arts, as created by Mattesi, a former Disney artist. Now, let's take a look at the lips as an example. How is force working in the lips? Force is like a blueprint of how energies like gravity create the right pressures to influence the final shape of an object. I briefly covered force in a prior video on the eyes, which you can watch here or find in the description. In the center of the upper lip, there's a directional force swinging up to the side of the lips because the gravity is pulling down the center. Think of this area like a wet laundry hanging down from a clothesline. This hits the directional force on the side, which then hits the mouth corner. On the bottom lip, the center is the heaviest part and again hangs down like a wet laundry. So we have force coming from near the mouth corner, plunging into the center, and then coming back into the other mouth corner. So I'm not really drawing the outline of the lips, even though it may look like it. I'm actually drawing the forces of the lips. In other words, I'm paying attention to what the lips are doing, not what they look like. This is why the lips in the sketch feel functional and dynamic. This will actually lead me to the best shape possible that informs us how and why lips happen like this in nature. Things look the way they do because they serve a function. Notice that I'm able to draw lips from different angles using the same forces because lips function the same way no matter how we look at them. And this is why you want to learn force. It's a blueprint of function that leads to the correct form. Speaking of which, what about form? How is that coming into play? Form is perspective and primitives like boxes, cylinders, and spheres. When built on top of force, form makes our drawings look solid and believable. Lips have volume. If you know force and form, you can add cross-sections to your forceful lip drawings to show this volume. Here, I'm using ellipses to show roundness. It's like the lips are made of bendy cylinders. Speaking of cylinders, remember the water cup face from my last video? We drew a bunch of ellipses in a cylinder to place features in perspective. Believe it or not, even though this sketch is a lot more fleshed out than a simple water cup, it's still following the same principle. Even though I didn't draw it out, I was thinking about the ellipse for the mouth and weaving the lip forces around it. That's why it feels like the lips are in the correct perspective and structure. It's important to learn force before form though, because we want to make sure that the drawing stays alive when we add structure. Without force, even drawings with great form feel disjointed, stiff, and lifeless. This is why you want to first learn force, then form. Drawing feels so much more enjoyable and freeing when you're not guessing what to draw all the time or where to place lines correctly. What about shape? Shape is about forceful design. A good forceful shape has a clear sense of direction that adds appeal to our drawings. I thought of the upper lip as one force shape and the bottom lip as another force shape, both pointing downwards. And when I drew the lips, I was thinking of the lips as a chain of smaller force shapes within the bigger shape, consistent with the lip forces we talked about earlier in this video. we're basically completing the shapes we started with force. Shape allows us to draw with efficiency and appeal, but as we saw just now, we need force knowledge to use it effectively. You also need form to keep things feeling 3D, not 2D, which is why you want to first learn force and form, which completely inform the final shape. In the end, that's why I can use only a few lines to represent a lot of information that ends up designed into the forceful shape. And what about anatomy? Faces don't seem to have bulky muscles like the biceps or triceps. How could it possibly have helped? Well, when it comes to faces, I find that anatomy is very useful with expressions. This is the same character, but smiling this time. From anatomy, I know that there is a muscle that connects the mouth corners to the cheekbones. So I need to angle the stretched mouth towards the cheekbones because the muscle is pulling them that way. Notice that I'm still using the same force lines to draw the lips, even though the expression changed. Again, force is the blueprint. Anatomy gives context and accuracy to our drawings, but it's only effective if we already understand force, form, and shape. I needed force to understand how lips function, form knowledge to know how the skull is oriented underneath this character's head, and shape to keep the lip directions clear and appealing. Only then could I use anatomy to change the expression to a smile correctly. If, for example, I knew anatomy but didn't know form, I wouldn't have known how the skull is sitting inside the head, which means I wouldn't have known where this muscle's sitting, which means I wouldn't have known where to angle the mouth. I promised in the last video that I would show you how to add a jaw to the water cup face. But after making that video, I realized I wanted to put things in the right order and be a part of your solution, not further frustration. It dawned on me that a jaw tutorial would require a lot of form knowledge, much more than I initially thought. And so unfortunately, I won't be able to teach you how to do that in a short video like this. However, if you learn form, you'll be able to take the simple water cup face, cut out the side planes, and place the jaw at the mouth level. If you know force, form, and shape, you can even take this a step further and just start out with a more advanced head form like this. I never drew out this structure, but this is how I simplified this character's head in my mind. It's a form that's in between a cylinder and a box with clear planes, and notice that it still feels alive because it is a forceful shape design. The front plane is a forceful shape bent towards the screen right, which is driving home the fact that his head and neck are pushing back, and combined with the smile, even hints at shyness or sweetness in his personality. Art skills don't come from fancy construction methods. They come from understanding your subject. Ironically, the reason why I'm now able to convey the emotions and structure of a character with only a few lines is because I took my time to understand force, form, shape, and anatomy. And I'm not the only one who's seen their art skills transform after learning about these topics. When we teach this to our students in the right order, we see the frustration lift and their art skills soar. So start with force first. It's the blueprint. We have online lessons at drawingforce.com, as well as one-on-one mentorships with Mike, myself, or other trained force instructors to get you there even faster. See you in the next video.